Yeah. BTV Productions, the Cultural Preservation Station. Tune in. Tune in. Hey yo. Black education, cultural preservation, tailored BTV because elevation. Tune into the station, we rockin' the whole nation. That's right, we rockin' the whole nation, prepping new generation for mental activation. Taylor BTV's the new sensation. Stop the hesitation and learn something new. My girl Taylor B's here to show and prove.
Peace and love, peace and love, peace and love, family. Thank you so much for tuning into BTV. Black Education Empowers True Vision, the Cultural Preservation Station. I am your host, Queen B. I want to welcome you guys back to Cultural Reflections Season 3. This is our live kickoff to Season 3. This is Cultural Reflections, the podcast where we sit down with people who bring positive reflections to the culture. So this is not only those that help preserve the culture, but those who help shape where we're going. So this episode is episode 14, and that's no surprise, and it's so appropriate since this is the last day of the period of the 5, and our guest is a Gemini representing the 5. So of course, we know on this platform, we know that culture is not something that you just inherit. Culture is something that you protect, practice, build from. Culture is something that we continue to innovate for the next generation. Tonight, I have the honor of welcoming a very powerful guest whose work speaks directly to that mission. He is a hold on 1 second. There we go. Live TV. He is a media visionary, an author, educator, producer, and community advocate, committed to the upliftment of Black people worldwide. As the CEO of DTK Multimedia Production Company and the founder of Do the Knowledge Radio, he has created platforms that amplify truth, history, culture, and the voices of our people across the African diaspora. He is the author of 13 books and the creator of Voices of the Diaspora Series, a literary and media initiative dedicated to highlighting the stories, struggles, achievements, and wisdom of Black communities across the globe. His work reminds us that our stories are not side notes in history, they are the foundation, the archive, and the blueprint. He also serves as associate producer for the Killer Priest podcast, continuing to help bring thoughtful, transformative, and culturally rooted conversations to international audiences. What I respect the most about his work is that it's rooted in more than content creation. It's rooted in education, nation building, family structure, historical consciousness, and the responsibility that we have to preserve the truth and the culture and stand on who we are. So tonight, we're going to reflect on that media and that literature and that diaspora connection and the cultural memory that our very special guest brings to the table tonight. So BTV family, please help me welcome to Cultural Preservations and to BTV Knowledge Born Alive. Peace and love, and kings up to you, Knowledge Born Alive. Welcome to BTV and Cultural Reflections.
Peace and love to you, Queen B. Okay, glad to be over here in Cultural Reflections with your lovely audience, your illustrious audience, and your multi-dimensional platform over here. You understand? Wu-Tang Killer B.
Absolutely.
We on the swarm. I was ready.
Absolutely. You know it's multidimensional, and you know multidimensional more than anybody else because you're very multidimensional yourself. So I want to welcome you to the platform. Thank you so much for being here. So before we get into the books and all the media work and all the great things that you've done in the culture, I want to start out with your name because you know I'm a numerologist, so the name is very important. So talk to us a little bit about your name, Knowledge Born Allah, and tell us what that name means and what that means to you.
Uh, we're getting into the weeds already. Well, I am knowledge born Allah. Who I am and what my name is one and the same. So, a systematic approach to understanding life through a filtration system of supreme mathematics. A deduction process of taking a determined idea from knowledge to born. So, making knowledge born and being knowledge born becomes one and the same in that purpose. And we are children of Allah, children of the Most High. So I am knowledge born of Allah, born of the mind of Allah, born of the being of Allah, born of the essence of Allah in physical form.
That's beautiful. That was a wonderful answer. I love that. So talk about Do the Knowledge Radio. Why was it so important for you to create your own platform? And, instead of waiting for mainstream to allow you to tell your story the way you want, what's so important about creating your own platform? And talk to us a little bit about the inception of Do the Knowledge Radio.
Queen B trying to get the book. You understand what I'm saying? Queen B trying to get the book series, in the docu series, and an answer. I love it. What I found when I began 11 years ago, or knowledge years ago, was there was a lot of things happening that looked black on the surface. They were cosmic black, but they were not really black. They were white ideologies and mentalities and the rest of the world in blackface.
Mm-hmm.
So our stories, as unique and as timeless as they are, were not being captured except in a space that was exploitive and in a space of degradation. So the goal behind Student Radio first was dedicated to my mother, dedicated to my father, dedicated to my grandmother, grandfather, and to my ancestral lineage. That's the foundational space. And then in the wisdom space, it was for the voice of the voiceless. So the voice
Mm-hmm.
of the voiceless was the message. So this was the tagline for Do Knowledge Radio is a place where knowledge is born. So hence knowledge born, making knowledge born, and no limit of time. So being a voice for the voiceless for that last knowledge at cipher years. So when we hit the cipherversary, we transform the mission from the voice of the voiceless to the voice of the voiceful. So a transformation and shift in the audience because the stories are out here being told. And our stories need to deserve to be told with dignity, pride, and not predatory and not conditioning. So we tell our stories authentically without apology and also without interference from outside forces. So indiscriminate to your political, religious, spiritual ideology, whatever it may be, we honor you as long as you're working in the best interests of Black people.
Word. I feel that. I feel that. And one other thing I add on to that is without their permission. I think a lot of the reason a part of that question is a part of your answer that you gave was you seen maybe some black people out there in media telling our stories, but they were exploitative, and they were telling it from a white ideology or from a different perspective, right? So I think that's why it's so important for us to own our own media. And I think this is such an important age right now because we're on the precipice of being able to really do that where everyone can own their own platform and really tell our own stories, our own history, through our own lineage. Each of us has a rich history and a rich lineage. So we could pick any one of us and tell the story of our own history and lineage, and that's Black history. So I commend you on that. And that brings me to the next segue because, what responsibility do the independent Black media platforms have today? What do you think is the level of responsibility that we should be having in the direction that we should be going in with some of the narratives that are being pushed out there on some of these platforms?
Well, the responsibility from my perspective of independent black media, breaking down the words, independent, not interdependent, right?
Mhm.
So seeking this space, when they talk about the ethics of journalism, one of them is to minimize or do no harm, right? So
Mhm.
many of these platforms that purport to be about the business of media or black media, what are they reporting? A lot of them are reporting smut, twist, clickbait,
Mhm.
sort of space. With this space of, multimedia journalism, we're dealing with these aspects of the virtual space alone, or anybody with a phone and a microphone has social commentary on aspects, and that's okay. But if you purport to be a journalist, you have to have some journalistic integrity and responsibility. If it's independent black and not just independent media, it doesn't matter what you do. But if you say independent black, so you should be about the business of telling the stories and reporting on the stories that affect your community. You understand what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
independent black media comes with the responsibility to not ostracize or destroy, your community. Now, if someone is doing wrong within your community, if somebody's scamming, harming men, women, and children, you have a duty to report that as well. But
Mhm.
there are stories that affect your community, the people in your community. The crossing guard that been at the crosswalk since 65 and she about to retire, that's a story. She got an
Mhm.
entire family. Nobody knew. They just knew her from the crossing guard situation. And we got generations of children she met at that crosswalk. That's a story. The lunch lady. You understand what I'm saying? The people in your community that matter to the community. Their stories should be shared and told. So now we're not dealing with a multi generation of people who are in essence uh, becoming performative to be seen and heard. We are great enough as who we are versus who we appear to be, right? Understanding to see things clearly for what they are and not for what they appear to be. So, to circle back to the question, the duty and responsibility of independent black media should be reporting news that enthralls, highlights, and celebrates those things that's in the best interest of black people in our community and our tomorrow people, and set a stage and a standard of ethical code for our future generations to come behind and be the mechanism for that medium of exchange.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Let's talk about the series now. What is the Voice of the Diaspora series?
Great question. The Voices of the Diaspora series and DTK Multimedia Production Company came as a catalyst while I was in my master's for entertainment business and my master's for new media journalism. So I had already started writing books, right? And then the writing books and the podcast and the news arm, Voices of Diaspora News, became proponents of DTK Multimedia Production Company that would specialize in highlighting, celebrating, and showcasing Black people from around the globe through a modicum of mediums, through journalism, through podcasting, and also through the docuseries web series. So, Voices of the Diaspora book series, this 13 book series, is my crowdfunding chief source to continue to create and meet this audacious goal that I have of telling 1 million Black stories from around the globe. So, in decency, in authenticity, in order, and in the proper likeness. So instead of crowdfunding and begging online, I think we done burnt that up. We done burnt up all of the bridges. You understand what I'm saying in regards to the GoFund weeds that we got going on and out there and all these other places. So fair exchange is no robbery. So to be able to create a product that is noteworthy, that's impactful, that has our stories, again to reconnect one generation to our future generations with that spark of modality of seeing self in the righteous light, and to speak to their needs in that regard. Use that as a crowdfunding source to be able to reach them wherever they are around the globe. So one began the process of taking care of the other in that regard.
Dope, dope. All right, all right. So talk to me now. Let me ask you this. You've done so much. You've written all these stories from all across the world, right? What do you think is the most common threads that connect Black people from across different nations and cultures? What do you think is that common thread that connects us?
It used to be tragedy. It used to be tragedy. You would look at it in that way and say the through line that connects us all around the world. Haj Malik Al Shabazz, brother Wali, affectionately known to the world as Minister Malcolm X, said the same rabid dog that bit you bit us too. That used to be the space, right? And we're coming and walking through the last of the remnants of that. Now, triumph is a through line that connects us. We are winning. We are victorious around the globe, indiscriminate to how it may look, right? A lot of people have sight, but a lot of people don't have vision. So if you can't envision what being triumphant looks like, then you could only have the sight of what you see. And you're dismayed by what you see. So in order for us to continue to rise, those sorts of things have to be uh, eliminated. You win by preparing to win. You have to begin to what you see in your mind's eye. Then you start to make those steps in your reality. So the through line that connects Black people from around the globe is being victorious, triumphant, and a space of celebration. Everybody wants to be celebrated. So the things that you see in the most degrading sort of spaces is us turning up wherever we are. And then you got people with their arms folded. We ain't got nothing to celebrate. I don't know. Must be nice. All of that extra stuff. If they celebrate, let them celebrate. You understand? So
Mm-hmm.
when you get into the mind of celebration with purpose and intent, now what does that do for that space of celebration? Why are you celebrating? Who are you celebrating? What are you celebrating? What are you holding in the spaces of your mind, in the deepest recesses of your mind, your heart, and your spirit in regards to that fighting spirit chance to continue? We're fighting to win. We're fighting to thrive. We're fighting so that our future generations don't even know that this thing existed. They'll be in the history books. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So if we continue to hold that thread in our mind, we'll continue to make wise decisions that are commensurate with that decision that we made to build our future. So in short, that common thread went from the the downtrodden word, so to speak, to those who are coming out of that space and moving into a space of being triumphant, from the traumatic to the triumph.
Yeah, I love that answer, especially because of the atmosphere energetically of everything that's going on. All of the planetary shifts, the outer planets are shifting, all going into, fire signs and air signs, taking on a more masculine face in that way, and just really speeding things up and speeding up the waking up of our people, no matter where they may be on the land. We're all kind of getting to a point where there's so much information out there now, so much going around. It really is a time of awakening. So not just that Uranus is in the sign of Gemini, right? But we're really having this awakening, and but we got some trouble coming up with Mars coming into Gemini in the next week or two. So that's going to be something special, because again, the last time that happened was the Civil War. So we're going to see about what that type of energy brings about. So I think that's pretty cool, that you said it's from like tragedy to triumph, because it really is. And it's triumphant in a way, and it's satisfying because when you've been getting beat down so long, you're the butt of the joke for so long, it feels good to finally stand up to that bully that's been bullying you so long, and you standing up and standing on business. And that's what a lot of us are doing. So I think that was excellent way to kind of summarize that. Um, so I always talk about culture reflections, is about bringing the positive reflections back to the culture, and not just about preserving it, right? We have to bring the positive reflections. We have to continue to make new culture, and make new memories and make new history, so the future generations can see that. And one way to do that is through storytelling. And I know you are a vast, great storyteller. How do you see storytelling as a part of nation building? And what does that mean to you?
Wonderful question. I'm telling you, wherever you getting these questions from, Queen B, all right, keep them coming. Storytelling in regards to nation building is the entire story. It's the entire nation. Your cells, down to the subatomic, to the genetic structure, all of that is story. You get 33 and a third from your mother, 33 and a third from your father, and 33 and a third of your own. That's all the sum total of your physical experience. Now, you have an ancestral connection that goes back to time immemorial. That's another story. You carry the weight and responsibility of your ancestral lineage, the mission that you said you would do before you came here. Your parents were chosen. Your lineage was chosen. Your body was chosen to house this essence of the divine who comes with a gift that is a story, with a mission that is a story, with a purpose that is a story, with a lesson to learn that is a story within a story. So, inceptually, from conception to reality, all of that, what happens is our story gets lost in translation, coming through the portal into the realm of the physical world, coming into 3D, you lose a part of that story. Mm-hmm. It's the duty and responsibility of your parents to give you that. They're supposed to be acquainted with who you are and what your mission is, and to act as guides along that pathway. So when you get in contact with them, you get in contact with your grandparents, when you get in contact with your lineage here in the physical world, they're supposed to reacquaint you and prepare you for the mission that's at hand. They have a mission, and that mission is tied to you. When a child is born, everybody gets a upgrade. Everybody gets a promotion. You understand what I'm saying? Your brother, your sister, your cousin, your aunt, your uncle, your father, your mother, your grandfather. Everybody gets a promotion with the inception of the child. So everybody has a duty and responsibility to that child. So that becomes another part of the story. So without storytelling, no one is there to leave a record or an archive or these instructions for those coming into the physical world and for those who are departed. A optimal society looks like ancestors, elders, peer group, youth, and ancestors yet to return, awaiting the opportunity to return through the blood. So the story of the bloodline, the story of everything that is, was, and will be, is a story of your lineage. And then when two families join together, all of those families come together as one. You understand what I'm saying? So without this vital essence of storytelling, people will be wandering around aimlessly and they won't know who each other is and how important family is in that regard. So the essence of nation is the essence of family, and family is our first and oldest religion. And then the story becomes how that word becomes flesh.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that answer. Very insightful. It's really something about our story and about everything that we go through. And storytelling is really a part of our culture and a part of our history because that's really what our ancestors did. They didn't do documentation the way that the dominant society documents everything by writing it down. We had oral tradition, it was oral tradition, oral stories that are passed down, oral learning of the recipes and all those types of things, showing hands on how to go into the woods to get those recipes to heal yourself with those herbs and those spices and all that stuff. So, it's really a huge part of our culture anyway. And I think, as we evolve with the times, it just gets more, it increases with tech as technology increases. So there's different ways to tell our story. And you found wonderful ways to tell a story through your book series, and one of the things that I really love about your book series is um, when you go to open the book, there's music that plays. So you get an experience where you can listen to music as you're reading through and flipping through the book. So I think it's a brilliant way that you kind of have converged the two worlds of hip hop and education together in a way that is, and joyful. It's enjoyable for people. So you've done a lot with that. So your work is really strategic, not just cultural just for cultural memory purposes. It's like the preservation that you're doing is strategic. You're very much strategically doing things to reach you know more than one demographic. That's a part of it too. Trying to reach the youth, because as the babies are the greatest, and the babies are who we have to teach, because they're the ones that need to grow up and you know have all those tools at their disposal, so and all that knowledge that we can pass down to them at their disposal, so that they can grow up and change the world with a head start. Something that a lot of us didn't get. And like you said, that ancestral knowing that you lose when you come into the physical realm. Part of what we do at astronumerology can help you remember that too. Help you remember what your path was, what you chose to come here to do, through your name and your birthday. So very, very cool. Love the answer. Of course, great work. So again, I already kind of talked about it, but like I said, your work has moved through several lanes. You do education, radio, multimedia production. You're an author. You're a storyteller. Now you're doing larger collaborations with different, you do them with different platforms. So when you look back over that journey, talk to us about how your journey unfolded. Was it all by design, or did your journey keep like revealing itself as you took the next step? Something else revealed itself to you.
Excellent question. I'm telling y'all, she trying to get all of the book notes. Okay, so you know, getting all of the book notes right now.
You're on BTV, baby. I've been doing this for over 10 years. This is what I do.
So when God chooses a path for you, you can see the beginning, but you can't see the end. When you choose a path for yourself, you can see the beginning and the ending. In the realm of the entrepreneurial mind space, they tell you to begin with the end in mind. So that means that you go to your goal and you backwards plan. And in the space of backwards planning, you make contingency, and then you set benchmarks based off specific, measurable, and attainable goals, right? So you go through that process of building it. When I started on the path of Do the Knowledge Radio, I was not sure about anything other than getting it started. That the need was there. There was a necessity. I was young, coming up, and my mother used to take us to events. We were in events, we were in lectures, we were in classes, we were there with her. And also we were home where people used to come to our home to get consultations in regards to health. So we were very acquainted in regards to the work that uh, our mother did. and is still doing ancestrally from that regard. So I took what she did with the science of herbs and the science of iridology. I did with story seeking and with story facilitation. So the beauty of it is when you sit down with somebody, Queen B, they never did an interview before in their life. They nervous. I don't know what you gonna ask me. You know, black people don't be playing that stuff. What you finna be asking me? You understand? Because we have not been acquainted with interview from a place that is righteous. We've been acquainted with interview for a job or being interrogated by the police. Both of them are the same. Neither one of them are an interview. Both of them are spaces of interrogation. You even cringe when somebody say, "Well, let me ask you a question." Go, all right, here go to, you understand what I'm saying? So,
Right.
settling into that space of story seeking and story facilitation leads to the path of storytelling, right? So, shout out to the goddess Rael, who Divine put on her heart to rebrand what I do as story alchemy, right? So she calls me the story alchemist.
That's
So
dope.
now
Shout
it's
out
a
to the queen
moniker
too. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
took on in that regard, and I'm just looking at life. You know, whatever you are doing, you were destined to do before you got here. So when you find a path and the path finds you and y'all agree and y'all use this alchemical blend to begin to walk on that path turns into something that changes your life. You know, a lot of years of my life was utilized in a way in preparation for military service. I was in the army for 17 years.
Oh wow.
5 of those years in war. 4 trips to Iraq and 1 to Afghanistan, and a bunch of other skirmishes in the midst of that 17 years. So I was prepared for that. There was no mystery about it. I was told at the age of 5 that's where I would be. And I did everything in my power not to go there. And all I did was get closer to it. You know, understand what I'm saying? So, that path in regards to what it is was already laid out. But when I look back at the 9-year-old told his mother he was going to write a book. And his mother said, "You're going to write this book." So I began to write this book. And I was writing this book. And in my mind, there was a book with a collection of essays on my thoughts on the things that I thought as a 9-year-old were very critical to the resurrection of the Black community. These are my thoughts at 9 years old. So I'm writing this book, and then the people outside thought I was soft because I was outside. I was inside writing books. So I had to come outside. So we call it soft. Next thing you know, the book got pushed to the side.
Distraction.
6 years later, I would say, I saw the book. I saw the book in circulation. Queen B, when I tell you, I saw the book cover in my head. A black dude in red on this side with a gun, and a black dude with blue on this side with a gun pointing at each other, a Klan mask, and puppet strings. That was the cover of my book. I had everything except the name. 6 years later, I saw this book. I picked up this book written by this brother by the name of Akil, called From Niggas to Gods. And it's a book full of essays on his thoughts in regards to the things that was working in the Black community. You understand? So the book that I was writing, that I stopped, Allah put it in his heart to write. And what better place than the place where he was at, where it could get national and international circulation. That book would have just been written and been sitting in my house. So that at 9, and then dealing with life later on, reflecting, my whole life has been a relationship with books and a relationship with story seeking and relationship with storytelling on a multitude of levels, one way or another. So this was in my path. I thought it was all of these other things. But then when I looked at it, when I did the knowledge search, I took it back to its foundation, the foundation and the capstone matched. What was in my head and what was in my heart, my hands and feet were utilized to bring them into existence. So something about that story, when I write for that little boy. I see him. I tell his story. I tell the stories that he sees and how he sees people versus how they see themselves. Oftentimes, we don't see the things that other people see in us. We no longer look at ourselves in that way because the imperfection of the physical world allows perfection to question itself. You see what I'm saying? So that pathway led me into what it was. Military service was a story, you know, life, all of these things, you know, born children into existence, raising children, working with children in the community, working with at-risk youth, working with people who have lost their way. All of these are stories along the pathway. So the spark of creating Do Knowledge Radio and working with these different people, they come from that foundation. See what I'm saying? A place where knowledge was born, right? So along that pathway, I reconnected with Killer Priest. You understand what I'm saying? I met Killer Priest in '96 for the first time. So me reconnecting with Killer Priest from way back then, you know. So, you know, working and doing all of these other things, traveling the globe, going through combat, losing friends and helping people save their lives and all of these other things all became stories along the pathway that once you take that step, things start to unfold. You understand what I'm saying? So being steadfast and remaining on the path with the challenges that come along with it and the rewards. Justice is your penalty reward depending upon what? Your ways and action. So that was that process of renewal. You know what I'm saying? That was the process of renewal and process of reclamation. So it went back to the story space and, you know, beginning that process of helping people heal through the art of storytelling and then the art of story facilitation, actively listening when someone is speaking and sharing their story. You know what I mean? And giving them the safe space and sacred space to be able to share in those endeavors. You know, so again, that path from that one step led into all of these other steps, and you know, always bring it back to Do Knowledge Radio because Do Knowledge Radio has touched lives of people around the globe. You know, I went from listening to certain people on the radio to interviewing them. You know the science. You understand what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
Like to going from being a fan to being a brother. You know, being a friend. You know what I'm saying? Being a comrade. All of those things in regards to that because I was dutiful and remained steadfast on the path that God put in my heart and in my pathway.
That's dope. That's definitely, you know, an amazing viewpoint. I was just saying the other night on Hip Hop Hour, you know, when you're dutiful and you put the work in, you're going to get the reward. You know, if you put that work in, you're not putting that work in just for nothing. You know, like you say, you're meant to do that. And if you're faithful to that and you continue to do that, it's going to show and prove itself at some point in time. As we know, every, you know, cause has an effect. So I think that's brilliant. Let's talk a little bit now about the history and consciousness and along that line. How important is historical consciousness to our community development?
Whew, all right. What 85, 10, and 5% on the poor part of the planet Earth. Okay. There's a degree And in 136, English lesson number 1, it said the trader made an inter-orientation saying that they will receive more gold for their labor more than they were earning in their own country. So, historical consciousness, being made aware of who you are and where you're from. These questions have answers, and these answers have a root in your family story. Back to the family.
Mm-hmm.
We like to lump all of us into a category and approach the situation of Black people from a space of being monolithic. No, we Moors, we Nubians, nah, we Christians, nah, we Muslims. You understand what I'm saying? We start going through all
We
of these-
Israelites, you know,
Yeah,
everything.
it's like we go through all of these aspects, right? And all of those things have a credence and a place within us. It's supposed to be your family provides you your culture, and as Dr. Membani says, a people's culture is their immune system. So if you know the function of the immune system in the body is to repel these foreign entities that seek to enter in and do harm in the body.
Mm-hmm.
So the immune system registers everything that's going on in the body, all of the key systems and the functionalities of anything or anyone that's inactive. So your culture is supposed to be your vanguard in that regard. So that means that if you have a space of dissatisfaction, it explains how a trader could come and make an inter-orientation, saying that you will receive more gold for your labor, more than you were earning in your own country. What's the key word in that? More. So that means that you were already being paid in gold for your labor. Now, somebody introduces an idea of more. So more can be an aspiration in regards to you wanting to do more or provide more for your family, or that same more can be one of them 4 devils. That space of envy, jealousy, greed, and lust. One of them 4 devils, all 4 of them. You understand what I'm saying? So now with more being introduced, there's somebody out here doing that's getting more than me. Somebody out here doing better than I am. So you see the contrast in regards to what more means. As if somebody could ever give you more than what you were supposed to receive. As if they could. So the inter-orientation was something that was whispered into the hearts of men that would make them sell their wives and their children. So more meant the destruction and the devastation of our civilization. And until we are back in line with the detriment that's associated with the destruction and degradation behind this gluttony in regards to wanting more, having to have more, not being content with what you have, and not seeing the value in what you have, it can be replaced. And we'll continue to perpetually be in a cycle where the immune system that's supposed to protect us begins to destroy us from the inside out. So if you have one of those syndromes in regards to that immunodeficiency, the body begins to fight itself. Your immune system begins to register the key systems of your body as foreign entities and fights against them. You see what I'm saying? So if you hear lupus or ulcerative colitis or any one of those aspects in regards to those maladies, the body and the job of this immune system is now in a collision course with one another. So without the historical consciousness, without the ability to be able to reconnect, without the ability to be able to, as I say, with Sankofa, go back and fetch it, we will find ourselves in a space where we can no longer distinguish friend from foe, and we're welcoming our enemies, and we will repel our friends. So those things that are righteous for us, we will repel them. You understand what I'm saying? And those things that are harmful to us, we'll begin to pull them in, and we'll fight with them, and we'll have a parasitic host relationship with them. We'll give them quarter in our minds and our hearts and our beings, and those parasites will feed on us until we're no longer in existence, and it will just find another host.
What antibiotic can we use culturally to combat that?
Truth. We
Hold
on the wisdom cycle today.
MB's in the comment section. He said we're dropping gems, dropping jewels, dropping bombs. This is a lovely conversation. This is the best. I love it. I love it. I love it. So tell me now, let's say hypothetically, not hypothetically, but let's say like to you, not that we're like picking one thing over the other, not like that, but just to you, what are some of the historical truths that you feel deserve more attention from our history? What do you think is that should be the main focus if you were to be able to pick one thing?
Well, in the Power of the Black Family volume that I wrote, we go from the traumatic to the triumphant. If we could eradicate family secrets, if we could eradicate those abusers and detractors that erode and destroy the other T word, trust. If we could look at one another and reconcile in the spirit of truth, then we could be able to deal with everything else. Because we could deal with it as a family. If I wronged you, and I could take you saying, yo, now it's wrong, you wronged me, and we could work through that. There's a space of trust. If I did some harm to a child and some deviant behavior, and I get eradicated, this child now has trust in the family. That the family members who's supposed to love them and protect them aren't predators, aren't preying on them, aren't having their way with them. And if they did, they found some way to eradicate that. Now we could come to the table and talk about these plans. Now we can come to the table and look at this blueprint and begin to win as a family because the trust is there again. Because if things go awry, the trust is that whatever is an obstacle or whomever is an obstacle gets removed out of the pathway. You see what I'm saying? So the family secrets, the lies, the deception, the foolishness, the plantation politics, the plantation mindset, and the plantation physical justice gets removed. Now we can deal with the liberation politics. We can deal with the liberation in the ascension space because the slaves and the master's relationship is disguised under the guise of parenting, of tough love, and all of this other foolishness that we shrouded in. And then I'm doing this for your own good. And then, all of these things we utilize to justify instead of being honest with one another. If I was at the Freaknik when I was a kid, I'm telling my children I was a child. This is what happened when I was a child. These were the decisions. This is why, I'm at you because of, for your decision making, because I want the best for you. You understand what I'm saying? We could build on it. We can discuss it. I'm not going to berate you and call you fast and call you out of your name and then say, I love you. And then I'll be ready to kill somebody else who actually is calling you out of your name. Where did I hear? You understand what I'm saying? So there's a bunch in regards to the familial ties and bonds. I have 7 aunts. I very rarely saw them 7 aunts smile. Very rarely. They were married to men and produced children in spaces where there was no love. They did not want them children nor them men. But the socialization process of the time put them in the prison of what societal norms and familial norms were. They didn't have any love in their heart. They didn't have any regard for themselves in that space. They were thrust into roles, and something that was an escape for them brought them more hell. So we could eradicate a lot of these ills that's associated with one another in regards to these issues on the traumatic side. Would no longer have to worry about those things being passed epigenetically to the next generation, and we can pass on an inheritance of being triumphant.
Yeah, I think that's very insightful, and I agree with that. The family secrets and the covering up for people who are doing foul things in the family and all that kind of stuff is a huge problem in our community. Always kind of has been historically. I think there's a lot of different factors that go into that. And you hit on a couple of them, and I think that's definitely one of the things that we can clean up, and that would help us because honesty and telling the truth is always going to be the best way to navigate situations. And like you said, when you're doing that, now the family can really stick together instead of having some type of fake camaraderie with each other, you know what I'm saying, and built on fakeness and stuff that ain't really real. So very, very insightful, very insightful. What can black families do as families to better preserve their own stories and their own histories?
Tell the story. Tell the stories. We used to have photo albums, all of those things.
Hmm.
Share the stories, tell the stories. Again, the whole thing with the family secrets, right? The
Hmm.
things that you'll never know. You understand what I'm saying? That unless somebody drunk or they mad or whatever it is, you got
Right.
to come to somebody's funeral to figure out such and
Yeah.
such. You be like, oh,
Yeah.
there goes your real daddy over there. Blah blah blah. Like all of the stuff. You see what I'm saying? All of the
Hmm.
stuff comes out instead of you just actually being told what it is. You being told what it is and documenting those things. You understand what I'm saying? So there are
Hmm.
things that I learned as a child that I share with my children. And then I had a story that I thought was a true story, and then I found out it wasn't. I went right to my children and was like, yo, let me tell you about your grandfather.
Hmm.
Like, daddy, I thought, your grandfather, your daddy was, deceased. I was like, I thought so too. Come to find out,
Hmm.
boom. You understand? So this space that we develop in regards to infallibility and all of that, if you if your children do something wrong, you want them to apologize, you want them to atone. But if you do wrong by them, I don't see you atoning. You
Hmm.
understand what I'm saying? So all they're thinking about is when they get older, if they were beat, they're looking for somebody to beat. You understand what I'm saying? If
Right.
somebody to treat like property, somebody to abuse, somebody to misuse, and we justify it, through our own situations, right? So, in regards to remedying these things and documenting our history and our story, and telling the truth, you can tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. We can work through those things and use those things as teaching points again to uh, correct future mistakes. So, sitting down with the family, as a family and hearing everybody's perspective, hearing everybody's story, you know, looking at different time periods in the family history and seeing what it is, because for myself, for instance, I have 6 siblings. We all grew up in the same house. We got
Mhm.
7 different perspectives of growing up in the same house. You wouldn't
Mhm.
know if you don't sit with each other and find that out. You see what I'm saying? It's like, oh, word, I didn't even know you. Okay, all right, that's different. You understand what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
everybody's unique personality, everybody's unique perspective, everybody's choices and decisions in life, they all bring to light something different in regards to the family story. And the last
Mhm.
thing I'll say on it is how you communicate your story best through whatever medium comes the easiest and most natural to you that don't feel like work is the best medium for you to share your story. If you tell your
Mhm.
story through writing, through painting, through singing, through dancing, through poetry, through whatever it is, whatever that gift is that God put on your heart that you would do for free, is the means by which you communicate best and share your story with your family and with the world. They
Mhm.
coincide, together.
Yeah, definitely. Mm, insightful. When we think about the next generation, what do you think for the next new generation coming up is the thing that we need to restore or fill them up the most with urgently? So like identity, like discipline, historical knowledge, keeping the family structure, media literacy, or something else. What do you think is the most impactful thing that we need to impress upon the next generation?
I was talking to my educator about this yesterday.
Mm,
That the student and the teacher produce the teaching together.
mm,
So the student is the student and the teacher is the teacher, but neither one of those situations are fixed. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear, right? That's what they say. So that means that the student exists for the express purpose of the teacher to see themselves and to see themselves as the student and the teacher, and the student to see the teacher and themselves as well as the student. So it's
mhm,
interconnected, right? So we look at the next generation in regards to this. If we prepare them for the future, they know what they're walking into. You understand what I'm saying? They say, "Oh, you wasn't born with no instruction manual." I'll be damned. You just don't know where the instruction manual is, and we're not preparing for life in that regard. So the
mhm,
thing that we can impress upon the next generation is preparation. But we have to be prepared in order to prepare them. So that means
mhm,
that we prepare one another. They help us prepare, we help them to prepare. We become
mhm,
better at our roles and responsibilities, and so do they. I was
mhm,
in a training class with an organization, and I was speaking about the training. One of the volumes is Secure the Legacy. Secure the Legacy deals with disaster preparedness from a preparation and a militaristic sort of stance. And
mhm,
I'm sitting with them, and I said, "What's one thing that you could do better as a family?" And once I communicate, I said, "Great." And the other one said, "Doing our chores like we're supposed to." These are two young people. The adults wasn't talking, the children.
mhm,
I said, communication. All right, I'll get to that in a second. I said, why do you call it a chore? What does a chore imply? They said, work. I said, work you don't want to do, right? They start laughing. Yeah. I said, so you live in a place. They said, yeah. I said, you got food, you got clothing, you got shelter, you got TVs, you got all of this stuff, right? Yeah. I said, well, who provides that? Our parents. I said, what do you provide? They was like, I said, let me tell you something about that word chore. If you change that word chore to contribution, you can say what you provide. I said, nobody has to remind you of something that you want to do, right? They said, no. I said, so tear the chore wheel off of the refrigerator, throw it in the trash, and you do what you're supposed to do because that's your contribution to your family's success. I said, if the things that you're supposed to do are done, I said, do you hear your parents' mouth? They said, no. I said, do you want to hear your parents' mouth? No. And they start laughing. I said, well, contribute. You stand up and you contribute. This is what I'm contributing. I take out the trash. I do the dishes. I make sure that my room is straight. This is my contribution to the family in honor and owe and in tribute to what I'm providing.
Mm-hmm.
There's that. So when we look at contribution and contributing spaces in regards to the family, if everybody does what they're supposed to do, then that's less of a strain than somebody who has to carry the brunt and the weight of all of these other things. So making things clear to the children so that they do what they're supposed to do and then start a new generation of modeling behavior in that regard. What right looks like. You understand what I'm saying? So now when they come with something that they are looking to do, their family members have already seen them demonstrate a space of responsibility and commitment to the betterment of the family. So now they're more apt to sit around and say, well, what can I do to be of assistance or contribute to what you're doing? So in regards to preparation, in regards to building, in regards to training, in regards to all of those things that become a necessity, especially in the climate that we exist in, everybody in the family knows their roles and responsibilities and they execute them without being forced to do so.
Dope. All right, let me ask you this. What concerns you the most about the next generation and what gives you the most hope about the next generation?
What concerns me most about the next generation is their parents. Very concerning.
Fair.
Very concerning.
Yeah,
and again,
fair.
we have, through this experiment and socialization of this place called America, what we used to call the hells of North America, the harrowing hells of North America have affected us on so many levels that we don't have a regard in regards to self. So what concerns me most about the future generation is the disposition of their parents. But the thing that gives you the most hope about the next generation is the parents. Because you can make an impact on the minds of people and it changes generations. I was a parent that resolved the issues with my older children with physical justice. You understand what I'm saying? Like if you ain't know today's mathematics when you went outside, if you ain't know your lessons when you went outside, you got university. You understand? So in my family, transgression was met with the utmost physical justice, right? When I wanted to do something different, something better, I could not be reprehending with physical justice to my children and then telling them I love them. I'm setting them up and allowing them to be ripe for abusers. They're going to choose someone like me to abuse them. You understand what I'm saying? So I had to change all of that, all of those mentalities. But guess what I did? I went to my children to atone. I sat before them and told them that I was wrong. And I want to work through these issues and ways to eradicate something to build a better future for us. So I told them that the things that were deficiencies, we would find another way to correct them.
Mm-hmm.
No physical justice. And I apologize and I beg for their forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
So I taught them.
That takes a real man to do that. Not to cut your wisdom, but that takes a real man to do that.
It takes a real person, right?
Yeah.
A real person
Yeah.
who wants to do something better, who wants to be something better. Right? They say the
Yeah.
best apology is change behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to continue to repeat them cycles. And I'd be damned if I would allow these things to happen. So they stop with me. You know, if it is to be, it's up to me. Right? This is what they say in the entrepreneurial world. If it is to be, it's up to me. So, you know, born is to bring into existence out of physically and mentally. So what am I borning into existence with this physical justice? What's going to be the result? So some changing had to be done. So the greatest concern and the greatest hope, right? Because children don't come here by themselves. They have to have parents. So if that concern is no longer a concern, but a motivation, a thing I'm most happy about, then the children will be well. You understand what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
one of the volumes that I'm writing in the series is the Rites of Passage volume. So the Rites of Passage volume deals with what it means to have a child, what it means to be a child, what it means to go from a child to, you know, adolescent, and from an adolescent to a young adult, from a young adult into fatherhood, co-writing with a sister of mine in regards to motherhood, in regards to daughterhood, in regards to sisterhood, and then dealing with some of my elders to provide the perspective of what it means to be grandmother, what it means to be grandfather, and how to welcome folks from going from a parent to a grandparent, and then from a grandparent to a great grandparent. So now that the generations have some basic instructions before leaving Earth, you know, each level of these things, we're dealing with a rites of passage process that welcomes them in. You know, one of my visions within the society is a place where the mothers go and they ain't nobody's mama. Where the grandmothers go, they ain't nobody's grandmama. You know, father, grandfather, right? And they in there drinking mimosas or alkaline water or whatever they drink, you know, drinking up in there. So a place where we send the young people that are thinking about starting a family. The young women go there, you know. The fathers go to the place where they ain't nobody father. You know, they ain't nobody grandfather. So when the young men come in there and they're thinking about, I'm thinking about starting a family. Or I'm thinking about getting married. And, you know, the people bust out laughing. But by the time they get done with those experiences, they understand what that is. They understand what that is within the society, right? So many of us are overburdened and overworked and underappreciated. And then, you know, flat out exhausted with a lot of these titles that we're holding on. We were people before we became somebody's parents. You understand what I'm saying? And then when they get grown, they be like, they still like, well, you always gonna be my baby. Let them be grown. Let them go be adults. Let them go be who you are. Let them go be somebody's parent. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that space where life continues, so they can have an understanding. But you gave them the basic instructions, right? So they'll begin to see on their own. And if they got guidance and insight, if they know their numbers, you understand what I'm saying? They know their math, they know what's in their culture. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
These things aren't hidden from them. They know who they're bringing into existence. You know what I mean? So all these things are preemptive. So now we're dealing with what they call it. We're dealing with proaction versus reaction. You see what I'm saying? So that we're dealing in the space of prevention versus cure. So
Mm-hmm.
that space in regards to the tomorrow people are predicated on the today people that we produce.
Mm. So, all right. Now, tell the people we want to know, if you could leave one message for Black people all around the world, what would it be? What's your message to them?
Honor your ancestors. Honor your ancestors. Start with those you know and pray for those you don't know, that they be revealed to you.
Mm-hmm.
You are the sum total of your ancestral experience. They exist, they are alive, and they are well. You know, they say treat people how you want to be treated. Treat your ancestors like you want to be treated. Unless you don't want nothing for yourself. You don't want nothing for yourself, do the opposite for your ancestors. But if you want something for yourself, if you want somebody to remember you when you're no longer here in physical form, do that. Do that. So that final message for Black people, wherever you find it, whenever you find this, honor your ancestors. Look back to move forward. Call their names. Involve them in your affairs. Get tight with them so you know who to call for what. You understand what I'm saying? If you need a 22, use the 22. Don't pull out the rifle if you can use the 22. You understand what I'm saying? know what to use when and where. And then, stay connected. Stay connected. Right. And keep God first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, tell me this. This is the last question. When future generations look back on our era, now I'm talking about 100 years in the future, 100, 200 years in the future, what cultural reflection do you hope they see in the mirror of history that we protected, restored, or rebuilt?
That we got rid of our enemies so they don't have to. That we got rid of all of the enemies, all of the angst, all of the maladies, all of those things that affect our lower nature, all of the things that plague our mind, our heart, and our being with dis-ease and dissatisfaction. That we gave it all so that they might have life and have it more abundantly. So in turn, if we are to return here in the physical world, we inherit what we worked for. And that they only know of this time that exists in the history. It's a thing of the past, not a thing of the present, nor a thing of the future.
So right now, what I want to do before we actually get out of here, I want to share just a couple of the titles, pages from your book series. If you don't mind, you want to go through that a little bit. Let me just get this share screen up here. Give me 1 second. Okay, bring this up on the stage. So, family, like we said, Knowledge Born Allah is the author of 13 books. Okay, these knowledge. So these are I have all 13 books pulled up here. So I just wanted to show you guys a little bit because I love the way that this is set up. So let me make this bigger. Hold on, let me close this. That's not what I wanted to do. Hold on. Let me make that smaller and then there we go. Let me close that up and then make this bigger now. So listen, when you come on here, how come it's not playing now? You can play music. So I'm going to just play one and let's do this one. So these are all the books. Let me play. Here we go. Is the music playing? I don't hear it.
It's muted on your end. If you go up there, you gotta
Oh, is
click
it?
on the one that, yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
hold
you
on,
gotta
let's say. So
it's
let me
muted on
unmute.
the,
On here? Oh,
yeah.
there we go. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
I'm searching for the requiem. My heart.
So you guys, look at how
I
beautiful this
woke up
is.
out of a good night's sleep and
This
slipped
is
right into the
really
Can you
dream.
start it at
very
the beginning?
innovative
Seemed
and
like a
progressive.
lifetime. Then the night rewind to this light shine upon my face as I awake
And
to
then you can flip
daydreaming
through
and
the
chase
pages and
demons.
read
Way to the
the
evening till
stories.
I'm sleeping. Then I
So I
awake
want you
freezing.
guys
I start
to
screaming. It's late, sharp
support
breathing. My
the
heart still beating.
series.
Running through the
Okay.
pocket
I
patch.
want you to support this series. It's an amazing book series. As you can see, there's 13 books. They are filled with information. You can listen to music in the background and enjoy the music in the background when you are, reading the book, which I think is just such a brilliant way and a brilliant use of media. So I really commend you for that. I think that is really a brilliant way to do it. So if you guys want to go ahead and support the good brother, I want you to go ahead over and head over to his Cash App and send him a Cash App and for $50, and he will send you the series. Okay. So this is very amazing, and I really do want to commend you for the work you've done here. Um, what was one of the main things that you learned through your journey of putting this together? What was some of the lessons that you learned in the journey of putting these books together?
If my children didn't like it, then it wasn't it.
Yeah, peace, African.
Let me pause it. I don't want to play it too long because I don't want to get a copyright strike.
Yeah. I don't, none of these songs should give you a copyright strike.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
these are all artists that I know, artists that I love. You understand what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And I got their
Mm-hmm.
permission to use, their songs. You know, they were all purposeful, all people that I know and love. So that to answer that question, if my children didn't like it, I don't care how much I liked it. It wasn't gonna happen. My first book, in for instance, is 19 pages. Right. I
Mm-hmm.
told my sons, "Hey, I wrote a book." They say, "Oh, okay, that's nice, Daddy." I was like, "I'll send them to you." Okay, okay, all right, Daddy, we're gonna check them out. I was like, "It's 19 pages, my boy." Oh, I'm gonna check it out right now. I'm gonna check
Mansa
it out
Musa
right now.
was the king of
They was like, Daddy done wrote the Bible and the Quran. I don't know if I want to, go through all of that. You
Right,
see what I'm
right.
saying?
If
But
if
when I
Daddy
told them,
wrote the
it's
book the way he
19
talks, we
pages,
ain't got time right
yeah,
now, right?
yeah, we got, yeah, I want to be up for 20 days trying to read it. So it went from, oh, yeah,
Right,
yeah, oh, Daddy, this was dope. Now it's, oh, my daddy write books. What your daddy do? You understand what I'm saying? So
right.
uh, keeping that in
Mm-hmm.
mind with the young people in regards to that and their relationships with books. You're supposed to read what you're interested in and what you enjoy. Read for enjoyment, read for entertainment, read for information. If you're interested in the subject matter, that's what it is. And what they want to do in life. So if it's a motivation for them to have a successful life, the book should reflect their interest and what they are looking to do in the future. You see what I'm saying? So it should be a mixture of both if it's not one and the same. So that was my lesson. They'd be like, "Oh, what's some books that
Mm-hmm.
black people should read?" I'm like, "Whatever they're interested in." That's the first thing because that's what they're going to retain, and then something that they're looking to do that
Right.
would better themselves and better their families. That's another thing, right? And every once in a while, I might
Mm-hmm.
slide in something that you have no interest in at all, that your enemies are interested in, you should be looking into that as well. You know what I'm saying? So gaining some of that space of intelligence in that regard. So
All right. I'm just going through all of them so you guys can
okay,
see all the titles and how beautiful they are. Very
Yeah,
beautiful
and that's the
titles.
tactical
The books
manual that I
are
was talking
beautiful
about.
work. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, this is dope. I really, really love this. And I really love the way you have it laid out as well. I think it's very creative. And the way you have it laid out, make it more enjoyable for people to want to read it. And I think it just adds an extra level of flair to it that you have the music behind it, right? Because we love music. Our people love music. So, I think that's just brilliant. It was really a brilliant use of media and a really forward progressive way to create a book series. I think it's great. So, congratulations to you on the book series. Congratulations to you on everything that you've done and all the work that you've accomplished, over the years of you, having Do the Knowledge Radio, turning that into the multimedia production company, all your literary works, the storytelling, the collaborations with Killer Priest, with the Pronoia Starseed podcast, with Mawu Lisa and Nick over there on Unread Book Review, just everything that you've done, all the interviews that you've done, very legendary things that you've done. So, I really want to commend you because you are exactly, who we made this show for. Like I tell people in the beginning, Cultural Reflections is about bringing you people who are bringing us positive reflections of our culture and really doing the work to help heal us and help transform our culture into one that is not at the bottom and that's very respectable and that we can be proud of. So I really commend you for that. And I want to thank you for all that you do for the culture and for the community, all the work that you will continue to do. So is there any last words that you want to say, or did I miss anything? Do you want to tell people where they can reach you, your social media handles?
Or they can find me at, at Do the Knowledge Radio. So if you're a black person and you want to share your story with the world, right there, DOTHA, not THE. I know y'all proper English folks and all that. It's Do the Knowledge Radio, DOTHA KNOWLEDGERADIO, Do Knowledge Radio at Gmail. And if you are interested in this series for the summer, more especially, something to bring your family together, some family projects, some family things that you can do with your family. It's 13 volumes that are regularly priced at $150 altogether. $50 for the month of June. For the month of June, how many days we got left? Last day of Gemini season. Salute to the Cancers. Y'all coming in, okay, in your feelings already, crabbing around. You understand what I'm saying? They having a bonfire. Do what you got to do, and be great. So, the solstice weekend, it's really about to be summertime. According to the dates, do something great. Uh, Make this investment for your family. Every single sale that I receive, Queen Bee, I donate 5 volumes to other families. So every sale, no matter what it was, you understand what I'm saying? So tonight, Queen Bee going to choose 5 families to send these volumes to. You understand what I'm saying? So uh, um, we worried about the word getting out. Again, this is a crowdfunding source for the proper visual representation of the future of our people. So be buzz, be the change you want to see. You understand what I'm saying? Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come on this illustrious platform for Cultural Reflections podcast. Support this podcast and all of the work that Queen Bee is doing. Okay, if you don't know your numbers, she got them for you. You understand? If you don't know what they mean, she got them for you. If you don't know what you're supposed to be doing in life, she got it for you. You understand? So salute to Taylor B and Taylor BTV. This is a visionary space for us, for us. You understand? So support, our queen and her laudable works. And what you say, kings up, queens up. You understand what I'm saying?
That's right. You set the royalty rules, and that's kings up and queens up. Kings and queens understand their power, their position, and their purpose. That's right. I want to really thank you so much. I had a great time, and I really want to thank you for coming on the platform. Actually, you know what? Before we go, I can't let you go because there's a question for you in the audience. So let me get you this question, and then we'll leave. Okay. My boy Botanical Brother wants to know, what do you think about crypto? And I guess these are all the cryptos: Ethereal, XRP, and XLM, etc. What do you think about crypto?
I think investment is very, very critical, especially at this stage of the game. Anything we could deal with in regards to this global reset situation that's happening, that's going on. The war went from um, oil and natural resources to a space of technocracy. See what I'm saying? So, the war is digital. You understand what I'm saying? So, if you're ahead of that curve and you can teach in that space from that particular wheelhouse, let me know. I would love to give you a platform to speak to it and for it. I know there was a lot of, you know, shady, grady information going on about it during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I have some crypto. I got down with some folks with some blockchain. But the thing about discipline, the thing about what we came from socioeconomics. You understand what I'm saying? So shout out to my brother Oba Adedayo for reminding us of how we go back from a cultural space and what that meant. You know what I'm saying? So reinstituting whatever these things are in regards to us to be able to store up and move in that kind of way. So, investing in your investment model, a multitude of means to be able to do it. So what they say, you need 7 uh, streams of income to become a millionaire, something like that, whatever the case may be. So whatever your goals, aims, and objectives are for the future, it starts with what you set aside today. If there is no toil and no sweat equity, there is no harvest. You see what I'm saying? So when it come time for harvest season, if you ain't sow nothing, you ain't gonna reap nothing. You understand what I'm saying? So whatever you sow, you're gonna reap. So I think that was a beautiful question from Botanica Brother in regards to that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to thank everybody who tuned in. This was our kickoff season 3 to Cultural Reflections podcast. I couldn't ask for a better guest to kick off this podcast because you truly are bringing positive reflections to the culture. So I really want to thank you again, commend you for all your work. Your family, make sure you go hit him up at Do the Knowledge Radio on all platforms. And again, like he said, the books series is $150 from now to the end of June. It's $50 when you send him a cash app. All of his information will get uploaded in the description below. So make sure you're checking out our brother, Knowledge Born Allah. I was going to call you Do the Knowledge Radio. Again, bro, I want to thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you, and I really commend all the work you're doing. From now on out, if anybody's watching, please make sure you share this video because this was a very powerful episode. A lot of gems were dropped in this episode, so make sure you share this out to all the people so they can gain this knowledge as well. I want to say peace, love, kings and queens up to the nation.
Really?